reform will have on growth. But every single every single research that has been done by the IMF and everybody says structural reforms do not deliver growth in the short term. And then the second thing is that they underestimate the impact of their austerity policies on the growth of the economy. Of the lack of growth here. So what I'm trying to say is that what we're seeing now in this budget is that we had an austerity budget where the government is cutting expenditure. And despite what the finance minister said, he is cutting expenditure for the next 3 years. Non-interest expenditure declines by 5.2% a year for the next 3 years, according to the National Treasury itself. And if you take into account growth of the population, we're talking about 6.6% a year decline in in spending per capita. So now that is the situation. A national budget doesn't work like a household. So with a national budget, if you spend more money into the economy, you grow the economy. If you cut spending, you reduce GDP growth. So right now, we shouldn't be doing anything that is going to reduce GDP growth. We should do everything, whatever it takes. Like every other country in the world, we have to spend our way towards GDP growth and fiscal sustainability. The IMF has shown that the countries in the world, they spent $14 trillion stimulating their economies last year. That was 16% of global GDP. Why should South Africa be different and think that they can cut spending towards fiscal sustainability? It doesn't work like that, Yeah.
Yes, but also I think one of the problems, Duma, is we caught between a rock and a hard place where, we understand, we talk about austerity measures, we talk about cutting government spending, and this is something that we are hopeful of because it hasn't materialized in the past. But also at the same time is to spend that money, to get that money to circulate within the economy, to grow the economy. Also, where would that money be coming from?
Okay, the first thing I have to say, we have a Reserve Bank, and the Reserve Bank should be working to reduce the cost of capital like in other countries. So what is number one, the Reserve Bank can finance government spending at no cost. That's number one, and that would reduce the average cost of capital. Secondly, the Reserve Bank can lend money to the government, as happens in other countries, on very favorable terms. For example, the Reserve Bank could say, we will lend you, let's say 100 billion rand, but you don't pay us until GDP increases. That's number two. Or they could lend the money to the government on very favorable terms. Secondly, we have a Public Investments Corporation, which the government owes the PIC already 500 billion rand of debt. So they could also give up, as a country, money under very favorable terms. Yeah. And what I'm trying to say is that there are many ways. And then thirdly, I want to say our debt is not high by international standards. So it's 80% of GDP. What happened is that it increased during this crisis by about 14 or 15 percentage points. That is exactly the same that happened to the world average. So in relative terms, our debt to GDP is not high by international standards. It's much lower than Brazil, in India, similar middle income countries. So we shouldn't be scared about borrowing more money, preferably on favorable terms. And we can borrow money on lower interest rates in the markets. Short-term rates are, the cost is lower than long-term rates. So there are many things we can do to reduce the cost of capital. But the most important thing right now is to address the humanitarian crisis. 1.4 million people lost their jobs. The unemployment rate is about 43%. It is a catastrophe. For Black African women, the unemployment rate is 50%, 51%. In the Eastern Cape, where half my family comes from, it's 51, 2% or something like that. We can't continue like this here. We can't cut towards fiscal sustainability. We have to address the immediate humanitarian crisis in South Africa.
Yes, but just finally, obviously, a lot of it is driven by policy as well. And this is important for us to understand in terms of policy, but also the political will to basically drive policy, to implement policy. And to do that, it requires stability. It requires a strategy. And at this point in time, huge question marks with regards to stability and also the ability to basically drive policy and policy decisions that have been made.
Yes, there's two constraints. So there's no financial constraints. The real constraints are institutional in terms of the corruption that we see and the lack of state capacity in the government. And number two, if a ruling party how can I put it? They've got a policy paralysis. They've got an incapacity to make a decision on even the smallest issues. The ruling party is going to debate step aside for the next 5 years, I guarantee you, and nothing will happen, So I don't know I actually don't, the political constraints are way above my pay grade because I do not understand how you can have the situation here.
Well, Duma, thank you very much for that and for your time with us this morning. All the best to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Duma Gqubule from the Center for Economic Development and Transformation with us this morning.
Penny Appeal's Education First campaign helps children to get access to quality education.
I'm 14 years old. When I grow up, I'd like to be a scientist.
We believe every child belongs at school,
And we want education, a better education.
learning and dreaming their way to a better future. With your help, we can provide classrooms, desks, stationery packs, and school shoes. Help make these dreams a reality. Visit www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
What makes Randery Jewelers the optimum place for your memorable gift? Is it our range of exclusive, high-end, luxurious jewellery? Or is it our master craftsmanship of all your bespoke jewellery needs? We believe it's because at Randery Jewelers, we know just how to make your special moments last forever. Whether it's for a wedding, anniversary, or just a simple gift to show your love, trust Randery Jewelers to make it special. www.randeryjewelers.com. Make your moments last forever with Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Duzi Med Medicine Depot Retail Pharmacy and